Welcome to the 12 Monkeys podcast, a Southgate Media Group production, where we talk all about Sci-Fi Channel's reimagining of the classic science fiction film originally produced by Terry Gilliam. I'm your host, Blaire and Graves, the executive producer of Professional Geek Podcast, and with me today is Kyle Tremblay, the editor-in-chief at tvbinges.com. You can find us on Twitter at Blaire Loves TV and at Kyle Loves TV. And remember, that's Blaire and Kyle, both with an E. And you can follow this podcast's Twitter handle at 12monkeys.pod. Hey, Kyle, how you doing today?
Oh, Blaire, I'm all right. You know, I'm feeling a little bit pallid after these two episodes.
Just
for no reason.
No reason, not at all. Not at all.
No, you might say I'm a pallid man.
Are you smelling flowers?
We're going to the entire podcast will be us giving really obvious hints.
Yeah, no. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Yeah, no, this is a good start after a 2-week break. Yes,
which I apologize for, everybody. I had a trip to DC and surprisingly had very little access to internet while in DC and was actually unable to watch the second to last episode, so we weren't able to record. But today we will be discussing Season 2, Episode 3, which was called 100 Years, written by Michael Sussman, who is known for his writing and producing on Star Trek Enterprise, Legend of the Seeker, and TNT's short-lived detective series Perception, as well as Season 2, Episode 4, Emergence, whose written by information is not yet available on Wikipedia or on IMDb.
Mystery.
Although I think it is safe to say that writer Sean Tretta, who wrote Season 2, Episode 2, Primary, was heavily involved due to his Twitter presence in today's episode.
You're really piecing together the clues there.
I know.
You're solving your own mystery.
It's like I'm going back in time.
Yes, that's right. To an hour ago on Twitter.
Yes. Speaking of going back in time, in these last two episodes, we went back to 1944.
Hey! We also, weirdly, obviously did not plan to not do an episode last week and to combine these two episodes into one episode of our podcast. But they weirdly go together because for much of these episodes, they're overlapping in terms of the time covered. It's that the most recent episode was from Ramsey's perspective, and the previous episode was from, obviously, our two main, Cole and Cassie's perspective. And up until about the last 20 minutes or so, they were actually covering the same sort of material, just from a different perspective.
Yeah, we really lucked out on this one.
Yeah. Well, I wish we could have said that we knew that was coming, that we have, like, screener access or something, but nope, we just lucked out.
Yep, that we did.
Yep.
Although, Terry Metalis, if you'd like to give us screener access, we'll take that.
Are we pleading for that on the podcast itself? Is that what we're doing now?
No.
No?
No, that was called an aside. That is the B plot.
The B plot of this podcast is asking for screeners.
That's exactly what it is.
Got it.
All right, so we followed Cassie and Cole back to 1944, where they had to protect a man named Thomas Crawford, who the messengers of the 12 Monkeys, I'm trying to get all these names right, the messengers of the 12 Monkeys had gone back in time to try to kill and cause a time paradox. They accidentally killed the father of the person who they meant to kill.
Good move, messengers.
Yes, leading to kind of some crazy shenanigans. I don't know about you, but I really enjoy. I am continuing to enjoy Cassie and Cole sort of being on the outs and having to go to social events together in different time periods, and faux stability in their relationship. They have remarkable chemistry, whether they like each other or not.
Yes, and yeah, it's usually a recipe for trouble when you have characters that the audience is supposed to be rooting for bickering with each other. That usually doesn't go well for shows, but like you said, it works here because they have chemistry regardless of how they're getting along. And there's a lot of, that's the party scenes in this episode were hilarious, where there's a great scene, and this was 2 weeks ago now, so I'm really going back on the memories. There was a great scene of I guess it was only 1 week ago. Ugh, I'm getting old. Where Cole. Well, there's two great party scenes. The first was Cole introducing Cassie as his wife, and the Cassie being like shocked and offended by that idea, which I enjoyed. And then Cassie changing the story the next time they have to give it to being his sister, and you think that's just out of spite because Cassie is mad at Cole and doesn't want to be thought of as his wife. But it turns out that she has read the situation, that Cole has seduced this woman to get into the party and realized that introducing herself as his wife would cause problems. And so Cassie was actually like a step ahead and not just purely acting out of disgust at the thought of being Cole's wife. I really loved that moment for Cassie, like once again establishing that she's the smartest person in the room, and she realized what Cole's ruse was and what kind of dude he is, and just adjusted their story on the fly to not cause trouble.
Yes. No, I thoroughly enjoyed that too. I generally, in both of these episodes, enjoyed how clever Cassie is and how unrelentingly, as you said, the smartest character that she is. Yeah. In any scene, particularly the scene immediately following when Cole's about to botch his cover by saying he was in the seventh whatever, and then she, being a smart, educated person, brings up a horrible thing that happened in 1942 and says that Cole was in it.
Yes,
and plays it like as smoothly as if there's butter on bread.
But also makes the story as horrific as possible just to troll Cole. Yes. Which was great.
Yes.
That was probably, I think, the funniest moment the series has had. That moment made me laugh out loud. For real. Just, again, Cassie being so clever, and in that case, she again reads the situation, and this time just like for her own amusement throws in a little tweak just to make Cole like extra sad.
Yes.
That's great. That's been the great benefit of both this 1940s setting, which the show is really like embracing for these two episodes. It seems like we're obviously moving past that now, but where they really like tailored the music to be 1940s style, and the costumes obviously, and everything like really felt like the 40s, and it contributed to this sense of fun that they were having in those scenes. Even though our two leads were fighting with each other, they actually like took that and made it fun, and that was a good time.
And even beyond the fun, they made it as I think you're pointing out, just as authentic as possible, even especially the way that characters treat Cassie in that time period. The language, I love the scene where he says, you call me honey, and you call her baby cakes. Cole says that when the cop is telling her that she's just a poor honey who got swept up in her boyfriend's, heist, as opposed to the idea that she might, be a willful conspirator or something.
Have agency over any decision she's making.
Right. Or like as soon as she gets to the 40s and she gets there during an air raid and the guy tries to forcefully take her into the theater and she's like, what are you doing? No, I can take care of myself. Yeah. Like
she's also cited for wearing what we would consider jeans, but back in the day, where of course she scandalized everyone in that hotel with her with her moderately tight jeans.
Yes. And leather.
Yes.
Yes. No, it was phenomenal. I thought it was awesome the way that they really authentically made it the 40s in every way that they could have, that you could think of. Like, I don't think there was a thing that they left out.
Yeah, it was I mean, it's certainly one of the benefits that the premise of the show affords itself, which is that you can, and something that the show really is only exploring now, that it can sort of take vacations in time periods and hang out there for an episode or two, and just become a 1940s show about like a bickering couple who are also like spies basically from the future, and that was what the show was for a week and a half here, and until we sort of meet back up with the main story. But it's certainly a nice arrow in the quiver of 12 Monkeys to be able to, just through the premise of the show, um, change the setting so that we're not always in this dystopian future or the present day, just bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, and in a truly authentic way. I think we bring up Doctor Who a lot on this show just because it's the other really big time travel show right now. In Doctor Who, they're always going to alien life form planets and to a recent past that doesn't seem familiar at all, or anything like that. Like, it's this very, very supernatural, crazy thing. And although 12 Monkeys is traveling through time, it is very grounded in reality.
Yeah. I want to piggyback on that because that was something that I really was aware of in these two episodes, especially the one that aired tonight. These aren't superheroes. These people don't have any kind of powers. They're being sent back in time through a machine that is obviously, sort of supernatural in nature. I mean, in the show, there's a sciencey explanation, obviously, but that's the show's sort of supernatural element. But Cole and Cassie are just people. There's no super strength. They don't have superpowered weapons that they bring back with them. There is no element to them of superpoweredness, which is different than the Pallid Man and the sort of bad guy team, who do seem to have some kind of who seem a little bit more menacing in that way.
Or like the messengers, who are very skilled in fighting and can totally beat Cole and Cassie within 15 seconds. It doesn't take them long to take them down. And Cole and Cassie only survive on their wits. They don't survive on being actually able to fight back.
No, they are not well trained. They're not combat specialists. The sort of messengers and the agents, the bad guys on this show, all seem to be much more competent militarily than our heroes. And that what that creates, I think, is a very much an underdog story, where you've got a lot of scenes with Dr. Jones in this sort of beat up lab, and in this dystopian future, as the sort of only support that our heroes have. Aside from Ramsey, obviously, who this episode came through and rescued them from the past, but it feels very much like an underdog story, and I think that's a nice place for this show to live, where we're even though our heroes are sort of bickering with each other, they're all on team underdog, and that I think helps in terms of knowing who we're rooting for and actually rooting for who the show wants us to be rooting for.
Yeah, I mean, especially because they have none of the. Not even Dr. Jones is this sort of sage character. The only sage character we have, I'm starting to realize, and I'm starting to hate myself for it, is that Jennifer Goins.
Jennifer, I knew it.
I know. I'm starting to finally like her. Are you happy now?
Listen, I won't be happy until she's your favorite character, as she is mine, of course.
No, Cassie and Jones are mine.
That's true. I don't know if Jennifer's my favorite character. I was just exaggerating.
I know. I want to also have a very quick aside that I really enjoy how much Cole enjoyed whiskey sours in the 1940s.
Oh, yeah.
Like when he was in the 2016, 20 whatever, he really enjoyed hamburgers, and then he goes back to the 40s and he really likes whiskey sours. He's just a very indulgent person.
Yeah, and I like that Cole had been there for 2 months when Cassie shows up. Cole's just been chilling.
he's having a good time.
He has, based on what we know, he has pawned all the jewelry that he was sent back with,
except for one piece.
Seduced a woman to get into this party, and developed a crippling alcohol addiction. And that seems to be how Cole spent 2 months. I just like that he's a dude, he's just a guy. He's not some well-trained agent. He's sort of just winging this, and he seems to prefer the sort of winging it strategy as opposed to Cassie's much more scientific approach, we'll say.
Cold and calculated approach.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I mean that positively. I like how cold Cassie is right now.
I like that she's the cold character. I think that's a nice little switch from how the series began. That Cole is the one sort of bumbling his way around, and Cassie's the one who is willing to do everything it takes without even a little bit of hesitation.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed, continuing through the story. I really enjoyed and was very sad when I thought in last week's episode that they actually were going to kill Ramsay. I was very convinced that Deacon was just going to put a bullet in his head. And that would have made me very sad because I really like that character. But it's one of those things you come to accept that in television, is that sometimes characters that you love die. They brought up again that Aaron had died last season, and I had mildly forgotten about him.
Yes.
So they do kill off characters in this show.
Well, there's sort of a what is dead may never die kind of element to this show due to the time-traveling nature, that anyone who dies on screen is liable to show up at any point based on the nature of the show itself. So, yeah. Which is
a weird little bonus.
Yeah. I guess to me the Deacon stuff was probably the weakest point of last week's episode. I love Deacon. Don't get me wrong. My Deacon love has not wavered.
We're here for you, Deeks.
Yeah, we always ride for Deacon, ride or die. But I never had any sense that there was actual menace behind him being taken out to be shot, because honestly, if you were going to kill a main character on a show, you probably would just shoot him in a jail cell. You wouldn't go on an adventure and make him dig his own grave. Like, anytime there's a scene like that, you could pretty much be sure that something else is going to happen. You wouldn't go through the rigmarole of dragging him out. Just to reference the Emergence here, because it's the best show on TV right now. All apologies to 12 Monkeys, which is really great and we love, but
best sci-fi show
best sci-fi show on TV, hands down, best sci-fi show on TV. The Emergence is the best show on TV, period, right now. And they killed a main character a couple weeks ago, and it was so sudden. It's a character that's been with us from episode 1, and now we're in like season 4 of the Emergence, I think. So it's like, 45 episodes or so this character's been with us. They killed a character so suddenly, I actually lost my breath. I was like, oh, wow. That character is dead. Right off the bat. I didn't no time to say goodbye, no montages, just here 1 minute, gone the next, dead. And so I think that I'm not sure 12 Monkeys would quite have the gall to do that to Ramsay, but also I don't think he's gonna die when he has to traverse a 5-mile forest to dig his own grave.
Right, but the classic science fiction trope in television that you may or may not know, Kyle.
Yes, I don't.
Which is that that you get sort of not only a redemption story, but you get a gift story, like the character finally gets what they've been striving for, as it were. And I'm not going to bring up examples because I can't guarantee that people listening to this wouldn't know the examples I'm bringing up.
Oh yeah, because dead characters, that's a problem.
Yeah, no. So, so his son, he plays the game with his son, the game that he played with his son last season. Oh. There were a lot of little hints that if you're an avid sci-fi watcher, you're like, oh no. He'd be dead. And he wasn't. He didn't die. And so I really like that they subverted that trope and that they're better than that. That's one of the reasons this is, in my opinion, and I think your opinion, that this is the best sci-fi show on television, is that it does its own thing. It doesn't rely on previous sci-fi knowledge or scientific knowledge or anything like that. It just has its own world that you kind of have to get stuck in.
Yeah, and I think that probably played better to someone who's an avid sci-fi watcher. Because for me, as a television watcher, I know that the show wants us to like Deacon. And so Deacon's not going to kill Ramsay. They're not going to have Deacon kill Ramsay, because then we would hate Deacon. That's counterproductive to the show's goals. And I know that, Kurt Acevedo, who plays Ramsay, is, super good. And they probably aren't going to kill him, at this point at least, because he's too good. He's too good to kill. And the show doesn't have that big of a cast, and right. I don't want to kill a dude who's doing a really good job. So nothing about it smelled right to me as a character death scene. I could certainly appreciate the sort of moment he had with his son, but generally when they kill a character, I don't think they remark upon that moment. Like, there was a moment, like, after he had that moment with his son, there was, like, a very obvious scene where, like, Jones says, like, you've seen him for the last time. Like, usually they don't, like, underline it like that. It's
right.
like, on Game of Thrones, the character who dies always gives the speech about how great life is going. But then no one's like, hey, that's the kind of speech you would give before you died. It's like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then he died. Like, that's not how it works.
Right.
So, but anyway, regardless, I mean, that was a small part of the episode. And that also, led us, that whole sort of sequence was a tool to reintroduce us to the Red Forest.
The Red Forest.
Which we learned about in the second episode. I feel like the second episode was, not the second episode, this week's episode was tailored for, like, dummies like me that understand maybe 20% of the show's plot. Because there was some exposition scenes in that episode that were really revealing and really laid things out in a way that 12 Monkeys doesn't usually do.
Yeah, they are very, like, I had to go back and watch the Getting High on the Red Forest tea leaves scene. Yeah. Because I think they are really trying to make sure that the audience gets it, that this is some heavy stuff that we're working with, and we need to take our time getting our audience there, because sometimes if you just assume your audience is going to get it, then you're going to lose your audience immediately, because they're like, what's going on? And and I consider myself a relatively smart person. I will rewatch that scene 3 times just to make sure that I got it.
I watched it once because I already know that if I watch it again, I'm not going to get it. So listen, I'm cutting my losses. But I think at some point in this podcast, we should attempt to explain the story. Given that the episode this week attempted to explain the story, I feel like you and I should give it a real go. Like, a sort of like, what's happening rundown.
Right.
So that'll be fun. Look forward to me getting literally every plot point wrong on that. But
and I can correct 30% of what you get wrong, probably.
It'll be good. We'll have a good success rate.
Great time.
Yeah, but no, it is. It's interesting because 12 Monkeys has not really bothered to explain things so far, and I've taken that as confidence by the show. Because it's very clear, just from the quality of the writing, the quality of the production, and just like the general sense of competence you get from the show, that they know what's going on. This isn't a show where they're winging the mythology. There's clearly like an underlying thought here. And so I've been fine to take the show at its word and just go along with stuff that I don't necessarily understand. So it is interesting that this week they, with a very obvious scene with the red tea, really like put in a scene specifically to explain what was going on. Now, I appreciated it because I do feel like I have a little bit better of an idea of what's going on. So that's good. But it's just an interesting decision to me, for a show that has for so long just sort of trusted that the audience would be along for the ride.
Yeah. I think that up until this point, everything that they have done is something that you can trust a pretty general audience with. This whole idea that mankind and time are interwoven, and to some degree that mankind made time, and that there are these people throughout time who have connections to time. Like, it's very, that takes a lot. That's not something you can just say and accept. They had to do a cool montage with it. They had to do a really cool travel through time sequence between Goins and Jones. It was very, very, very needed. But yes, it's not a traditional thing that the show does.
Yeah.
It's just very. I mean, I'm still lost on how primaries are special. That's a part that I get that Jennifer Goins is one, but
yeah. Okay, I feel like now is the time for us to attempt to talk out what's going on.
All right. Well, it took us all of 60 seconds to get here.
Yeah. No. This is a good segment. It's a new segment on our podcast titled "Blaire and Kyle Embarrass Themselves," and it's going to be us trying to explain what's happening
to our understanding,
for our own benefit,
right,
to our understanding.
Yes. You know what? And if you listeners have a really much better understanding than us, please send us an email
Oh, do it.
or tweet
at us?
rather. Tweet
Yeah.
at it. We don't have an email address for this podcast. I apologize. Send us a tweet. And if we're convinced, then maybe we'll bring you on and you can explain it to everybody else.
Yeah, if you are sufficiently convincing and really seem like you know what you're talking about, we'll bring you on the podcast and give you like 5 minutes to just like do your explanation. So,
yes.
As
All
a
right,
public
but,
service. Yeah. Okay. So
yes.
let's take our attempt now, because
Okay.
I feel like now, since the show has gone ahead and attempted to explain itself, it's now the point of our podcast where we have to explain the show.
Well, all right. So here we go.
Okay.
So the birth of man was not evolution.
Oh, we're starting so early. Oh God, we're starting at the literal start of time.
The literal. Let me tell you a tale.
Yeah. So yes. So the idea, I think, is that man evolved. I don't know the origins of all this, but I think we're taking that man evolved, but as man evolved, time also evolved. Mm-hmm. The very concept of time.
Yes, because and I think it's tied to consciousness, the consciousness of man.
Yeah, the consciousness of man awakened time. Like time suddenly became a factor in the universe that has some form of agency. That time itself is a learning organism of some kind, of some sort of ethereal kind. You know, it's this weird. It's something that has a memory and that learns and that adapts, and that the increasing presence of man had an effect in shaping how time works.
Specifically, when man came up with clocks, they went out of their way to say that when man started to keep track of time became even more aware of how it existed and how it interacted with man.
Yes, and the sort of linearity of time was established as we presently view it. But the individuals who have the strongest role in this are the primaries. Mm-hmm. The primaries are the individuals who are sort of the, I guess, the pillars of time that basically are, if you think about pillars, like the primaries are on Earth and they're sort of propping up time. They are the connections, the strongest connections between time and the human race are the primaries.
And they seem to be able to see past, present, future.
Yeah, I think that the primaries have, it's a two-way relationship with time, where they have an insight into how time actually works. And time gains the insight into how humans view time through them. Mm-hmm. And so it's a sort of symbiotic relationship, and that's what we see with Jennifer Goins and why she hears the voices. She is sort of experiencing time as it naturally exists prior to how humans sort of ordered it and made it linear.
And then if you want to either disrupt or destroy time, you have to both cause paradoxes and also kill primaries.
It seems like the paradoxes, if you kill a primary with a paradox, I think it erases them from time. I think that's the only way to like really get rid of them. Like, because as a lot of the dialogue in the last week's episode was about the sort of circular nature.
100 years.
Yeah, and nothing actually dies. Nothing, as long as a primary lives a sort of normal human lifespan with birth and death, then the time is fine with that, because they are always existing in that time period. But if they're killed via a paradox, then they are removed from the time period in which they originally existed, and that removes one of the pillars that's propping up time itself.
It makes it start to collapse.
Yes, and as time collapses, the byproduct of that is the red forest creeps to Earth. And I imagine, my understanding is that the red forest is an artifact, a portal into essentially what a world without linear time would be. A world without time.
But then, so that was the thing. So when it killed the one guy,
it killed him by aging him rapidly.
Was it aging him? Because I thought it seemed like he was sort of switching between all these different time periods. Like he seemed to be non-existent.
It was aging him rapidly, and then de-aging him rapidly, and then aging him like he was going through every time period all at once.
Got it.
He was experiencing the lack of time, basically,
until he finally just was also a lack of person.
Yes. In another really cool death.
Yes.
12 monkeys. But yeah, so when a primary is destroyed via a paradox, removed from the time stream, the red forest itself creeps further into reality because time loses one of the pillars that's propping it up.
Yeah. I think we did it.
Yeah, so that's it, right? That's the story?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think.
Cool. Yeah,
I think that's how I'm glad we were on the same page because. All right. Please, if anybody is listening to this and we're like absolutely wrong, please let us know because we don't want to spread misinformation. But yes, that is my understanding as well. Is that, and so then these primaries become increasingly more important, and then these are people who we would otherwise write off as mental basket cases, right?
And then there's the other side of this story, which is the army of the 12 monkeys, right? And the witness who is talking through people, right, is talking to the woman who was revealed to be the Pallid Man's mother.
The messenger.
Right? The messenger. Who was the Pallid Man's mother, right? So the witness speaks to the messengers. We don't know who the witness is, right?
No, we've not met the witness.
We have not met
the
witness.
Although, it was very funny on Twitter because people kept saying that Detective Gale would become the witness. But then Sean Tretta kept shutting them down. He kept being, nope, that's not true. Like,
I like that.
No, I mean, that would have been cool. But no, I think Detective Gale was just like a cool one-off character who, if we go back to the 40s, I hope he's there.
Yeah, I thought his entire existence was to explain why that picture of Cole and Cassie in the 1940s was present in the room that they got. Like, I thought that was like a cool little bow that they put on the story.
Yes.
So what the army of the 12 monkeys are trying to accomplish, in my understanding, is ushering in the Red Forest.
Yes.
They want to destroy they're going to go throughout time, and destroy every primary via paradox so that time itself ceases to exist. And that every time period, every second that has ever existed exists simultaneously.
Right. And then we have no humanity and no true existence, I guess, at that point.
But we would also have all humanity and all existence at all times, but no humanity and no existence as well. Yes. which I'm a little bit unclear on their motives as of now, but it does seem to have something to do with what they were talking about, how in a world without time there is no death.
Yes. There's no death and there's no birth.
Yeah, no birth, no death, everything always exists. Which is interesting. I suspect that whatever they are trying to accomplish involves subverting death.
Some kind of immortality, as it were.
Yes.
Although if you erase time, then you could be erasing your own consciousness, but maybe you just don't care. Maybe you just want it all gone.
I don't think you're erasing time. I don't think any of it would be like just full on erased. I think it would just all be one point. Right. I don't know. This is all very like trippy.
It's very, very trippy, and it's one of those things where, you know, the thing that I am happy to say about my love for the 12 Monkeys TV show is that I trust it to get me there. I trust that I'm confused right now, but I trust it to get me there because it's done that every time that it's introduced a really heady concept. It'll always introduce it and be a little bit intimidating, and then it'll find its way back into normalcy and make it make sense. So I'm looking forward to that moment.
Yeah, but I think part of the fun of this series is the not knowing.
Oh,
I think that if this series, which is why I thought it was curious, not bad, just curious that they did explain this. Although, recapping with you, there's still so many questions. It's not like they explained the whole series. Maybe they just needed to throw us a bone and give us a little piece of it so that we would just understand the structure of what's happening. Because I do, like, after talking that out, it does make a little bit of sense now how the show is going to work, which is Cole, Cassie, and presumably possibly Ramsey, are going on time adventures to attempt to stop the messengers from killing the primaries.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that, though, is that as they were talking about, that record keeping sort of made time be more formidable, make it more precise. Mm-hmm. There have to be primaries that existed prior to that timekeeping. And so that's the part that I'm like, how many of these can we go on? Are we going back to, like, primate stage? Like, what are we doing?
Well, I don't know. I don't think we have any sense of how many primaries there have been in history.
But two so far have existed within 50 years of each other. Jennifer and Tommy.
I thought Jennifer... Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess within 50 years of each other. It's weird because we don't know if it's a normal distribution. We don't know if every 50 years there's a primary or if it would just so happens that that's how it worked out. It is just interesting to think about the possibilities, though. I mean, the show could go back to Victorian England. The show could like you said, it could go back way far. It could go back to caveman times. The show could really go anywhere. Which I think is exciting because based on our 1940s adventure, it was a lot of fun to play dress up for a couple episodes and have the show feel like a different show for a bit. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know what the rest of the season is going to bring, but it would seem to make sense that that's going to be how the show sort of operates for a while here. Of we're going back to different time periods and trying to deal with this whole thing.
Yes. Well, in the promo for next week's episode, Cassie goes back in time to help Jennifer with something, which may be before Jennifer met Cassie. I got that impression.
I didn't watch the promo, so
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Listen, I don't know.
I'm very excited to see more female on female character interaction. That's not always something that you get all the time. I just would like to say I really enjoyed that it was Jennifer and Jones that were going on the trip together.
Yes.
Because that's not always there's not always a single, if not both characters being female in that moment, not talking about a man.
The ye old Bechdel test.
Exactly. I was very excited about the passing of the Bechdel test.
Yeah, I think 12 Monkeys passes it with most every episode.
Oh,
honestly,
yes.
Given the importance of the female characters in the story and the fact that relationships are not front and center on this show. I mean, these sort of the work relationships are, but like romance is not a front. This is an Outlander, It's not a show about romance. There's bigger fish to fry here.
Exactly. No, I just wanted to point it out there that I was very excited about it. It was like one of those very obvious moments to me that made me very happy, and not obvious in a bad way, but just
definitely
clear as day. All right. Well, before we wrap this all up, I just want to note that I really enjoyed Ramsey's adventures through trying to manage the 40s.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but that was quite entertaining that he got hurt pretty much immediately.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat. They really got to recalibrate the positioning on that time machine. they got to be a little more precise.
Mm-hmm. As I said earlier, I really enjoyed Detective Gale, and I hope that they, maybe if he's a one-off, that's perfectly fine. If they find ways to make him, be more involved, like maybe he changes the future because he's seen time travel or something like that. I do still substantially hope that there's a better explanation for Cassie and Cole having gone to the 40s than the fact that there was a picture of them. I really, like, I mean, I know they were going to protect the sky, but I feel like you can't just be dropping hints to each other cyclically like that, you know? Like that doesn't quite do it for me. I'm hoping that there's a little further explanation later.
I think we sort of backed our way into it with the primary stuff. I think now the idea has become clear that they are trying to protect the primaries as a way to protect time itself.
Right.
I think that is crystallized during the story. I don't know if that was the initial idea, but in terms of what the characters on the show knew, I know for the show itself that was the initial idea. I don't know if Cole and Cassie knew what they were doing beyond just seeing an old picture of themselves, but I suspect we have seen the last of the 1940 storyline. I suspect. I suspect we have moved. That was a sort of 2-episode little fun side adventure, and now we are moving on.
Yes. No, I agree. And then also I really enjoyed that when Jennifer Goins was in her little bunker, that she just had a turtle hanging out like it was no big deal. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yes.
I love all the little subtle stuff in this show.
Yeah.
Like, as you said, like how thoroughly well built the 40s were. It's the same thing with Jennifer's crazy circus of,
yes,
Amazons.
Right, yeah. They put in some weird stuff that I really appreciate, like that stuff. It's a show that's not afraid to get a little weird, both in terms of storytelling and the details.
Exactly. But yes, just wanted to point out those things. Did you have anything else you wanted to say before we wrapped up?
No, I mean, I feel like I broke a sweat trying to break this all down, but yeah, assuming that we weren't totally off base with our explanation, I do feel like I have a better grasp on what this show is about, which is good, I guess.
Yes. No, and I agree with that as well. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, if it's the hunt for the primaries or if it's more different types of adventures or breaking down time, whatever it is. This show just, whatever it chooses to do, it does it very well. So I'm excited to see where they go next.
Absolutely.
This wraps up our 15th episode of the 12 Monkeys podcast. Before we go, I want to mention a few things. You can download and subscribe to our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and Libsyn. You can also hear all of our podcasts at our website, southgatemediagroup.com. Please subscribe to the show and also rate us. Check out my new podcast, Professional Geek Podcast, a show about how to be a professional and also a geek. And follow tvbinges.com for TV-related content. Follow the show on Twitter at 12monkeys.pod, and Kyle and I at Kyle Loves TV and at Blaire Loves TV. And remember, both Kyle and Blaire have an E at the end. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.